mutant. You dare challenge Apocalypse again? Blasphemer! You defile my sacred chamber!
Damn right he defiled your sacred chamber, Apocalypse. Cable's a badass, and badasses deserve badass statues. Let's check it out, shall we? What's up, folks? It is once again your doctor, Dr. Remy LeBeau, and I'm here in the X-Lair to once again provide you with what you absolutely need to get through the most difficult time in your life. You have been plagued with the X-Men statue withdrawal syndrome, and I am here to help you. Today I have something that many of you have been waiting for a very long time to see, and I have been withholding for a very long time for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Except for the fact that I have a million statues to show you, and I only have so much time to show them to you. So, finally, I get to introduce you to Cable, Retro Cable, on a Sentinel head, a very awesome statue that was released I'd say about 5 years ago now. And it's one of those statues that has reached the grail status, as it were, fairly quickly, and in large part because of how rare it is. It's a very rare item. Bowen Designs put it up for sale briefly as a Collectors Club exclusive. It has an edition size of 250, so immediately it's sold out. From then on, it was just the rarest of items, and I was fortunate enough to find out about it long before it became as rare of an item as it is today. I managed to find somebody that was interested in selling it. It had originally retailed for $350, and I managed to get it for $600. I think it was $600 or $650. I'm not exactly sure what it ended up being. It was somewhere along those lines, but now it's going over like $1,000 on eBay. So, and it's very rare for one to come up. And when one does, people start sort of, bidding it up like beyond its sort of previous market value. So every time you see one come up for sale, like, it tends to sell for more than the prior one, because there are only so many of this statue available, and it's unfortunate because it's a really great statue, and I think people should be able to have it. People that want it should be able to have it, but it is the nature of this hobby that, and anything that involves collectibles, where you're going to have a small amount of certain items that are going to become very rare, and there's going to be a lot of demand for it, and that's going to drive up the price. Case in point, the recent Beast classic statue that was put up in Rocky's vault, and there are only 75 of this statue in existence. I saw one sell recently on eBay for over $1,000. It retailed on Rocky's vault when it was first put up for sale for like under $200, and it's already going for over $1,000, which to me is like mind-blowing. It's just insane. I can't believe how quickly the price of that statue has ballooned, but I mean, just logically it does make sense. There are only 75 of them. There were maybe 6 or 7 that went up for sale immediately when the item was first shipped out. There were a few people that bought it specifically just to resell it. But those ran out pretty quickly, and so now there are a lot of collectors out there that really want this statue and were not given the opportunity to get it, and are willing to pay a lot of money for it, apparently, and that's what happened. So there aren't many people that are willing to sell this statue, so I'm going to assume that one's going to keep going up, and the same is the case for Cable. Like, I think I saw one go sell for like $1,300 or something absurd like that. Anyway, it's unfortunate. I'm really sorry that there's a lot of you watching this video right now that are not going to be able to get your hands on the statue, probably in your lifetime. But there are some mitigating factors. One is Bowen Designs did put out another retro Bowen statue a couple of years ago. In my opinion, it's not as good as this one. It is sculpted by the Kucharek brothers, who sculpted this one as well. And I think, I mean, obviously it's a good statue. They're great at what they do, so they made another great statue. But in comparison to this one, it doesn't really hold a candle. And I think it has a lot to do with just like the, you know, like sort of the scale of this one, the sentinel head. Like there's a lot of sort of impressive qualities about this statue that you really can't replicate unless you kind of create the same statue. Maybe even do like a second printing. Hopefully, maybe Bowen Designs will do that at some point. Do like a second printing if they renew their Marvel license. Maybe they'll decide to do that, because it would be nice for people to be able to get their hands on this particular statue. But again, that was one of the mitigating factors, that there has been another Cable statue released, which is pretty cool. And also there has been another statue released that is on a sentinel head, not as big as this one, but fairly close. You've seen it, I have it, you might have it. It's the Bishop statue, Bishop on a sentinel head. And it could even be argued that the sentinel head for that one is actually cooler than this one, because it's missing like half of like the back part of it, and you can see the insides of it. You can see sort of the mechanics of the sentinel head, and I don't know, just stylistically, I think it's more interesting to look at. So, you know, that is available still, and it's available at a reasonable price. Let's talk about this beautiful piece of sculpting, shall we? Again, there were only 250 of these made. I have, what number do I have? Number 138. So it was released in 2010, but I'm pretty sure it was put up for sale in 2009. And right now it's 2014. It's about July, end of June. So it's been, you know, 4 or 5 years. I got it. I remember when I got it, I was just so in love with it immediately. Like, it was instant love. It was like, everything about it was so interesting. Like, the base. The base is just obviously the first thing that really does stand out. And just even when you open the box, like, there it is, like this huge sort of sculpted piece that is a sentinel. It's the head of a sentinel. You know, the sentinels are very sort of interesting robots. They're designed in a very unique way. They have a very particular look to them, different from all the other types of robots that you see, you know, throughout like science fiction and pop culture. Like, they have a very distinct look, and this head, this base, sentinel head base, captures that look perfectly. And of course, there's this really great sort of detail to it. Like, you can see beyond like the mechanics, there's a lot of like battle damage. Like, you can see there's like 3 like scrapes along the face in various parts, obviously to signify the fact that you know, Wolverine has played a part in taking down this sentinel, which is really awesome. And there's like, you know, and part of this sort of battle damage is also sort of like the exposed electronics. It's not, again, like, it's not as stark as it is with the Bishop base, but there's definitely a lot of really nice sort of opportunities to look into the statue beyond just the surface. Like, here on the side, you can see some really cool battle damaged areas and mechanics. The inside of the mouth looks really awesome as well. It's a really great thing to look at. Like, I love to look at it because I think it's like masterfully done. Okay, let's move on to Cable himself. So Cable has an interesting design. I think this design for Cable is based on the design that was used for the cartoon to some extent. Because he had a few different designs in the comics. Like, okay, so I mean, just the story of Cable. I'm sure most of you already know it, but like, he was first introduced in Uncanny X-Men number 201 as a baby, right? So it's revealed, oh, Cyclops has a baby, and you know, the story moves on and all sorts of weird things happen, and eventually the baby gets taken into the future because it was infected with the techno-organic virus, which of course was done by Apocalypse. This was in issues, I forget what, it was like 63 to 67 or something, of X Factor Volume 1. And then concurrently with that, we had New Mutants running, and Cable had been introduced as an adult, an old man, really, an old man soldier, in New Mutants number 87, I think. And he had been introduced, and like he didn't look like this. It's weird. He had like a shoulder plate, and then he like wasn't wearing a shirt underneath, and he had pieces of armor on him, and of course huge guns. And he kind of looked like one of my uncles. Honestly, he looked like an uncle that I have. Very very close to that. Like my uncle was shirtless quite a bit, so. That might have been why. So I was trying to figure out where this look was taken from, and the only thing I can come up with is the cartoon. The cartoon had a very similar look. It wasn't as detailed as this, but I'm pretty sure it had the boots. The design in the cartoon had the boots, and it had this shoulder plate, and it had the X symbol in the middle. And I think it had straps coming down from both sides. Obviously, there's more detail to this. The Kutrex put way more detail into all the pouches that go all down and around his back and his belt, and of course the knife. The knife on his boot is in addition. But I think in large part this is meant to capture the design of the cartoon, which I think is very cool. Because it is sort of like an iconic representation of Cable. Cable had only been around. Actually, he was introduced in 1986. He had actually been around around 9 years by the time the cartoon came out. But you had to be an X-Men fan, an X-Men comic book reading fan to know about Cable. And I don't think there would have been as much attention put on Cable as there seems to be now, if the cartoon had never existed. And so it makes sense for Bowen Designs, who's putting out the first representation of Cable in 3 dimensions. Even though I think Kotobukiya had already put out a statue that I don't really like, so I'm not even going to mention it. But this is really the first sort of quintessential representation of Cable in 3 dimensions, one that is worth mentioning and worth having. And it makes sense that if you're going to have a representation of Cable in such a sort of grandiose way, in such a unique and distinct way from the traditional way that he's been represented, which is in 2 dimensions, in drawings, that you would have him look the way he does here, in a way that does capture somewhat in a more enhanced way the design from the cartoon, which again is definitely an iconic representation of Cable, and I think will always sort of stand the test of time as far as its importance, for the character itself and for the iconography associated with the character, as well as sort of being promulgated into the awareness of a larger audience, much larger than a comic book reading audience. So, and also being responsible for him becoming a popular character, and maybe even so popular that now he is going to finally get some attention in a film. I'm assuming in a forthcoming X-Force film, which is supposed to be happening at some point, and that might be a really interesting thing. And I look forward to seeing what happens there and how that plays out and how he's represented. There's something about Cable, there's something about him that really makes him interesting and really makes him sort of just excellent fodder for fandom. And I mean, he definitely got me right off the bat. I was immediately intrigued by this character when I first found out about him, and I haven't stopped being intrigued by him. And there was a time period recently in which he was dead for a few years, and it was a sad time. It was a very sad time. If you're interested in seeing more close-ups of him via, photographs, you can just click right here where it says blog posts, and I have plenty more photos on my blog, X-Men Statues of Future Past.blogspot.com. What would be really great is if I could actually if I could actually like, meet Cable and like in some way like maybe be able to talk to him, have an interview with him. I think that would be probably the best thing I could do, is to sort of capture the essence of Cable and sort of relay that to you. Hello, I am Dr. Remy LeBeau.
The name's Cable. Remember it.
Okay, I wasn't planning on forgetting it. I want to, first, before I get started, I want to thank you for agreeing to meet with me today.
Yeah, kid. Start the ball.
Okay, will do. Will do. Let's jump right in then. Let's jump right in. So, as many of my viewers know, you're quite the popular character in the X-Men universe. People love you. Can you maybe go into a little bit why you think you're such a fan favorite? What is it about you that people like so much?
I've got your answer right here.
Okay, so you're saying it's the big guns. People like your big gun.
Time to wake up, Sleeping Beauty.
Big guns it is. Big guns it is. Cable, you have quite the complicated past. Can you maybe go into a bit of detail about how you came to be as a human being and the sort of the details of how you grew up?
You got a short memory.
Okay, so I assume you're not interested in going into the sordid details. You old darling.
Don't call me darling.
Cable, did your father make a mistake when he sent you into the future?
You're boring me.
My viewers deserve to know, did Cyclops make a mistake when he sent you into the future?
What bothers me is that he didn't finish me off. Like he didn't need to. Like nothing I could do to him mattered.
I see I've hit a sensitive spot. I apologize. I do tend to do that.
That makes you a dangerous man. Too dangerous to live.
Cable, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cross a line. I was simply hoping for some honesty. Cable, please don't kill me. I've got too many statues to live for.
You got any other ideas? I'm listening.
How about we end the interview and I agree never to upload it?
I can't let you do that.
Is there anything I can do to make up for my mistake?
Time to reach out and touch someone.
You mean like a handshake? You'd like me to give you a handshake?
I've got more important things in mind. Go on. Take your best shot.
All right, if I have no choice, I'll give it my best shot. Okay.
Show me everything, everything, everything.